Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Dennis Stockman, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Greg Barron. We warmly welcome the family of Private Philip Wilkins, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge Mr. John Kemp, who is commemorating the 7 men who lost their lives during the attack on Fire Support Base Anderson in Vietnam 50 years ago today. John was a commanding officer at Fire Support Base Anderson. We warmly welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Queensland, and RSL Victoria, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths and floral tributes will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this National Memorial Museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Philip Wilkins. Philip Wilkins was born on the 13th of September 1893 in Bombala, New South Wales, to George and Jessie Wilkins. He grew up in Double Bay and attended Fort Street and Sydney grammar schools. He went on to study at Sydney Technical School and qualified as an analytical chemist. Following the outbreak of the First World War, Wilkins, then aged 22, enlisted in Sydney on the 8th of December 1914. He joined the 1st Field Ambulance and was allotted to the 3rd Reinforcements. On the 11th of February 1915, he sailed with his unit from Sydney aboard the transport ship Centune, bound for Egypt. After some time in Egypt, Wilkins was sent to Gallipoli and was seconded to a British casualty clearing station in June. However, his health broke down and he was evacuated to Egypt. By December, his health had improved, but it was thought some time back in Australia would be beneficial. During the voyage home, he served as a nurse and at times as a mess steward. Wilkins arrived back in Australia in February 1916, and when his health recovered, he was transferred to the infantry. After his initial training, he was allotted to the 20th Reinforcements to the 3rd Battalion. He embarked from Sydney on the 9th of September aboard the transport Euripides. After reaching England in October 1916, Wilkins spent nearly 2 months in a training battalion before sailing to France. Here, on the 19th of December, he was taken on strength of the 3rd Battalion, which was resting out of the line. The battalion endured the bitter winter of 1916 and 1917, rotating in and out of the front line. As winter gave way to spring, the German army began its withdrawal to the formidable Hindenburg Line. The Australian battalions were involved in pursuing the Germans. By early April 1917, the 3rd Battalion was in front of Ermey, a heavily defended outpost town in front of the Hindenburg Line. On the 9th of April, the 2nd and 3rd Battalions attacked and, after some heavy fighting, took the town. Both battalions suffered heavy casualties, one of whom was Wilkins. He was laid to rest in the Beaumetz Crossroads Military Cemetery. He was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Philip Wilkins, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding at the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and good evening.